We are in the home stretch. Yay! Sorry, I got excited. All right, so now you can see they've almost doubled in size again. They're nice and pillowy. Actually, the saran wrap has like expanded. I'm really wishing that I had used saran wrap for the top. Anyway, I'm just going to be obsessive and a nerd inside my head. But the point is, our rolls have risen, and you can see the back ones that we did first are already ready to go, and these are like within minutes. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do. So you wanna get whatever you're putting your bread in, and since I'm making loaves for my sister-in-law, because I love her so much. I say sister-in-law. It's my husband's brother's wife. That's my sister-in-law, right? I think it is. I'm gonna look it up later. Anyway, the point is, I've got my bread, my loaves pans ready to go. They do not need to be greased. They do not need to be floured. They don't need anything. This is a very simple recipe. So long as you follow it, it's fine. It's not like it's asking you to jump through 14 hoops. All right, so you're gonna get one of your doughs out. Now, you can use a tiny little rolling pin to roll these out, but I've noticed my fingers do the exact same thing, and I don't have to get anything else dirty. So that's what I'm gonna do. Sometimes you hear a little squidgy sound. You just don't want to tear it. You just want to flatten it out a little bit. So you're going to pull one side to the middle and press it like an envelope, and then pull the other side and press it into the middle, and they'll kind of overlap. You don't want to create a bubble inside. You just want to flatten it up against the other one, and then kind of pull it so that it doesn't stick too much to the surface. Squidge it out a little bit, and now you're going to roll it into itself and just tuck it in as you go. And you can see it's kind of pulling on the surface. I don't know if you saw that or not, but as you roll it up, you see where this seam is? You want to pinch it together so it doesn't pull away. Just pinch, pinch, pinch. See? Pinch, pinch, pinch the seam together. And once it's done that, it's ready to go inside your loaf pan. I'm going to put this one over here and work on the next one. Oh, it's so calorie and gigantic. It's gonna be so delicious. So yeah. So I'm just gonna press this out. Again, you can use a rolling pin, especially the smaller ones if you have them. The bigger ones tend to just get stuck on this dough. But like I said, your fingers do the job just fine. And it's not like it's really sticking too hard. So you fold over one side, and then fold over the other. Let me show you this nice and close. We've just made sure that they've just overlapped in the middle. See? Like that. And we flatten it out just a little bit more like this. And tuck, pull this side up, tuck it down so that it's really rolling into itself. Kind of pushing it. You seeing this? I don't know. Pinch, 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 pinch these together so that it stays together. Like that. And then you put the seam side down. Alright. And you can see that the part that was on the cutting board, that's the part that I'm putting upwards now. I'm really pushing into. Do you hear that squeak? It's kind of fun. All right. See? Fold it like that. Fold it like that so they overlap just a little bit. Like that. Now, I'm going to just spread it out just a little bit like that. It also helps the seams stay together. And then pull and tuck, pull and tuck like this to make sure it's a nice tight spiral. As you roll it up. And once you get to this edge, pinch it together. You've got one loaf ready to go. Like that. I'm going to use that saran wrap to cover it just so it doesn't get a skin. I kind of didn't say that very well last time. So the reason why you cover it is because you want it to just reinflate it again after you squidged it down after the first proof. And that one's really just so it can reinflate, not a real proofing. But this one is the second proof. So you just want to cover it so that it doesn't get a skin, because once it gets a skin, that skin is very dry and it cracks, and you're not going to get the same rise and beautifulness on the top. You don't want it to dry out. So just, all it takes is just covering it very, very gently like this. And once this has risen all the way to the saran wrap, then it's ready to go be baked. So we're going to put this off to the side. I'm going to show you yet again what to do. Again, if you've halved this recipe, you're really only going to have those 3. And if you've decided to make dinner rolls out of this instead and used this pan, what I suggest you do is take some parchment paper and line it like a sling, just on 2 sides, a little extra on each side like that, and put the dough on there. And that way, it's so much easier to slide them out. But you don't have to do that either. Like I said, this recipe, if done right, they really don't stick to the pan. And it makes it really easy for you to get them out. So, make your little envelope fold, turn it, and flatten it back out just a little bit. Again, that makes sure the seam is nice and tight. And then roll it up while making sure that spiral is nice and tight as you pull it off the board. You really don't have to do that much work to pull it off the board. Like I said, it's not very sticky at all anymore. If done right, right? And the same thing, you would do the same thing if you were making rolls. You would just do it in a smaller amount. So, like I was saying, this double recipe will do 24 rolls on here. And instead of dividing it into half and then thirds each to get 6, you would divide it in half, and then it divided in half again, so you'd have 4 big balls. And then of those big balls, you would divide it into 3. And then you get these nice little tiny rolls. And you would do the same thing as you're doing right now, only instead of rolling it up into kind of a cylinder, it'll end up kind of like a square almost, because it's so small. And you just round out the edges like we did earlier by tucking around and scooping inside, just not inside, scooping down around the roll. You just do that just a little bit after the roll up and pinch step. I'll show you in a second. So I'm flattening this one out, or you're rolling pin, spreading it out. And then envelope sealing it just into the middle then turning it, spreading it out just a little bit more. Roll, 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 roll. And this is the part where you just kind of tuck it around. So it's really the same, really simple. But because you have so many of them, I would strongly recommend that you get a second film of cling film, saran wrap. I keep calling it multiple names. It's all the same thing, cellophane. These, because I'm doing it so fast and there's only 3 of them, I don't really have to cover them until I'm done. But with 24 rolls, you really don't want them to dry out. So grab an extra sheet and cover that as you're working, so that you have a cover on the dough that's about to be rolled out and shaped, and you have one that's covering the ones that are already shaped. So last one, yay! Remember, the side that was sitting while it was growing, or not growing, puffing back up, that's the side that I flip over and kind of help spread out with my fingers. And that's this envelope seam turned. Actually, I'm going to do it on the other side. And tuck. Roll and tuck, roll and tuck, roll and tuck, roll and tuck. Man, the firefighters came the other day to check on our neighbor. He had just hit his head while he'd fallen because he got dizzy from standing up too long. But because of all this craziness with, you know, not wanting to infect first responders, they had to go in a hazmat suit. And even then, because it wasn't a dire situation, he could still walk, he was still lucid, they brought him outside and sat him down in a chair and examined him outside the house to make sure that the first responders stayed safe and didn't leave themselves exposed to risk of catching anything. And they always have to operate under the assumption that they could potentially be coming in contact with a contagion. So only one person went into the house to go get him and bring him out. And it just reminds me how dire the situation is, because what if these ambulance and firefighters, first responders, paramedics got sick? Who would take care of us when we're really sick? Who takes care of us when our doctors and our nurses get infected? That's why it's so important to protect them. That's why they need the medical equipment, and we need to stay inside so that we're not coming into contact with anything that'll get us sick. But those who have to come in contact with them, have to go outside, have to provide basic, essential needs, have what they need to stay safe as much as possible when you're in contact with people who are sick so often. I don't know why I'm on my soapbox, but I'm here. Hey, sorry. Yeah, so we're just gonna let this sit. It's not gonna take very long. It's gonna take maybe another 15 minutes. This one's almost to the top. You can see it's almost to the top. You wanna see? It's so cool. You wanna see? It's almost there. It's so close. It's so close. Guys, hi, it just finished. 25 minutes at 350. Do you want to see it? Let me show you. So don't be alarmed. I did not put it in the oven with the saran wrap on. Please don't do that. You will hurt it. And I completely forgot to mention that if you take just a tiny bit of butter and just brush it on the top, that's what gives it this golden sheen. You don't have to do that. It'll come out just like the regular sides tan without being super brown. But I like to put just a little bit. And if you don't have the brush, You don't need it, guys. You can take like 2 fingers and then just brush it very gently on the tops of the dough right before you put it in. There's no extra fancy things. Just get a little bit of butter. What am I saying? Get a little bit of milk and brush it, and it comes out so beautiful. I mean, look at that thing. It's so beautiful. I'm gonna get all its sexy angles. Sorry, ignore me. But yeah, you leave this here to cool for about 5 to 15 minutes. I like to give it a full 15 minutes because if it gets that nice little condensation on the bottom, when you turn it over, it'll just slip right out of the pans. And then I let it finish cooling for another 15 minutes on here. Otherwise, when you wrap it up in cellophane, or if you put it in some sort of Ziploc or whatever, it'll have too much condensation. So just cool it down before you bag it up. And like I said, it'll keep for a really long time if you keep it nice and airtight. At least a week, 2 weeks. It's yummy. Try it. It'll be delicious. Enjoy it with your family. Send me pictures. I love you guys. Bye.